everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Magnifying HR Voices. It is another beautiful Wednesday, and I am so excited to be here with you to magnify another brilliant, amazing HR voice. Today, we have Joey Price, and we're going to be talking about building a coaching culture in your organization and why that is important. But you know how we like to do this show. So tell me, where you're joining us from today. Let Joey feel the love. Let him know that who you are, what you're doing here. If you have any questions, join the conversation. You know I love it when you guys comment on what we're talking about. I'm going to bring Joey up and we are going to get started. And here we go. Hi Joey, how you doing?
Julie, I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. It's a great Wednesday. It's hump day. All those other fun things.
Yep.
So I'm excited to be here and thank you for giving me the platform to chat and have fun
Oh,
today.
absolutely, my pleasure. We've been trying to do this for a little while now, so it's really good that we're finally able to get together and have this conversation. I know that this is a topic that you are very passionate about, and so I'm looking forward to just learning from you, sharing space with you, sharing this your thoughts on this topic with our audience. But before we get started, I'm going to give the floor to you so that you can let our audience know who is Joey Price. What do you do? What's your passion? How did you get into HR? So I'm going to jump off and leave it the floor to you.
All right, Julie. So, for those who do know me, you probably heard this story 1,000 times, but I'm going to tell it again because I love it. And every time I share it, it probably inspires someone in the room that it is okay to change course when something doesn't feel right. So, my HR origin story starts with undergrad, where I actually studied I studied human performance. I was an exercise science major at the University of Maryland College Park. So I'm a proud Terp. And I realized somewhere in between my junior and senior year that I didn't think this was the career field for me. I didn't think that I was going to grow up and tape athletes for the rest of my life. But there was something that I was incredibly passionate about, and that was human performance. I love seeing how we can motivate ourselves to kick into another gear, how we can be great team players, how we can build winning teams, and what that success looks like over time. And prior to understanding what human resources was, I thought that the only way that I could apply those skills and those passions was on the field of play. I thought I was going to be an athletic trainer. I thought I was going to join a competitive traveling sports team, win a couple trophies, help athletes excel and be their best. But I realized that that wasn't the life that for me. I wanted to stay in one location. I didn't want to have a lot of travel days, and I knew I wanted to succeed and be successful at what I did. And there was no way that I was going to be successful at the top of my field and still be able to like settle down and have my roots. So I pivoted, and I had no idea what HR was, but I was talking to some family members and some members of my church as far as like, well, what do I do? What's that next step for me? Because I knew I didn't want to work in necessarily in technology. I knew I didn't want to necessarily work with numbers. I'm not the accounting guy. And I knew that I wanted to graduate on time. I wanted to get out of college in 4 years. And I made a promise to myself that said, whatever it is I choose, I will get my grad degree in that, as opposed to spending like 6 years in undergrad and only having the BS degree to show for it. So some people told me about HR. I said, okay, this sounds like it's for me. And I was working a job at the time and in college, and they wanted to offer me a full time role. And I said, the only way that I would take on this role is if I have some HR responsibilities because that's what I'm interested in. I'm going to get my grad degree in that. And I really committed and leaned into this HR thing. And over the course of several years, I had escalating responsibilities in HR as an employee. I graduated with my master's in human resource management and development. I got my certification. And then it dawned on me that I really think that I could do this HR thing on my own and create a company where we provide consulting and administration to small businesses and startups across the U.S. And that's exactly what I did. So 10 years ago, I founded Jumpstart HR. And ultimately, we have HR in the name, but it boils down to helping humans excel and perform through work. And so our vision is to create a organization of optimal joy and employee success at work. So yes, that's compliance. Yes, that is benefits and compensation, but it's also coaching, it's training, it's making sure that employees are happy, excited, refreshed, and focused on their goals and their mission. And so along the way, we've worked with some really great organizations that have gone on to win Inc. 5000, Best Place to Work, Best Christian Workplace, and have been some really bright spots. So that's my origin story. I'm passionate about human performance at work, which is why we're talking all about coaching. Because even though I don't coach on the ball field, I do coach in organizations, and I've built a team of really awesome coaches that coach in organizations. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And hopefully that inspired someone to pursue their authentic story, because you have the time and life too short not to do that.
Such an amazing story. Every time I hear it, like it really does give me goosebumps and really does help me to appreciate, like, that there's so many amazing HR professionals out there, but how we got our start. There was something that just shifted and changed the way we thought about people and wanting to impact people, that drew us to HR. And your story is always one that inspires. So thank you so much for sharing that with our audience today, Joey. I want to show you where you're feeling the love from. So we've got Trinidad in the house. We've got Manila, the Philippines in the house.
Hey.
Chicago is here. So yeah, we got a good cross section on LinkedIn, and then we also have a couple people on YouTube. So this is going to be really great. So let's kick off the conversation, Joey. We're talking about creating coaching cultures in our organizations. So let me start with this first question. Like, let's define what is a coaching culture. What do you mean when you say let's create coaching cultures in our organization?
Well, my definition of a coaching culture is one where team members are looking to improve and managers or leaders are looking to give thoughtful and encouraging feedback that helps team members improve. When we think about why individuals leave organizations, people say that we join organizations and leave managers. I'm kind of tired of that saying because it doesn't address the full scope of why we leave managers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's because we aren't coached up, we aren't given opportunities to express our gifts and abilities, and we aren't given the feedback needed to grow and be groomed into the professional that we know we can be. And
Mm-hmm.
so a coaching organization flips that on its head and says, hey, everyone that's a part of this organization, we are all here moving the ball down the field for the organization's goals. But along the way, we're going to make you a better professional as well. So it's all about making people better as a member of your organization than they were before they got there. I
Mm-hmm.
can give you an example.
Yes,
In
please
our
do.
in our organization, we have and I can't take credit for it. One of our consultants, Summer, she started this Slack channel called Wins and Wisdom. And anytime someone does something that is noteworthy, we drop it in the Wins and Wisdom column and we celebrate it. But we also say, well, what is the takeaway from that? What can we all learn about why that was successful and apply it in our lives? And so you almost become this sort of uh, teaching organization, learning organization,
Learning
growth focused
organization. Mm-hmm.
organization where individuals aren't afraid to be told how they can improve. And managers are smart and astute enough to acknowledge where growth may need to be. So
Mm-hmm.
that's that's coaching culture in a nutshell.
Wonderful. And I think that this is something that we all truly need to embrace. But I think the reality, the harsh reality is, Joey, that a lot of organizations do not embrace that. And so while we hear all these great stories about organizations adopting coaching cultures, learning cultures, becoming learning organizations and coaching organizations, it's the story of the few. It's not the story of the majority. So, for people who really want to create a coaching culture, our audience sitting here today, I see Denver, Colorado is now in the house. Um, what does that coaching culture look like? Like, how do we warm up our HR people to really embrace coaching culture, and show them like what does it look like if they try to implement it to be successful? This is what it could look like.
Yeah. Understanding that HR, every employee needs HR, whether they believe it or not. And
Mm-hmm.
every employee needs great HR, whether they know it or not, whether they
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, because HR should be the conduit for creating the environment where employees succeed.
Yes.
So, specifically as it relates to coaching, there are so many different layers to that. We could talk about recruiting and HR coaching hiring managers on how to identify really great talent, how to ask the right questions, how to document the right feedback so that we level up the quality of person that joins the organization. In the onboarding process is coaching up hiring managers and team members of how to receive and welcome a new person into the organization so that they feel welcome. There's a
Mm-hmm.
stat that says 1 out of 5 employees leave the organization prior to their first 90 days. And yes, it's as much about employees not being a good fit, but it's also about employees not feeling like they belong. And
Mm-hmm.
so HR can should be coaching team members to make their colleagues, their new colleagues, feel as though they belong.
Mm-hmm.
From employee benefits perspective, it's doing the due diligence to understand your benefit offerings and be able to empower your managers to have those conversations with team members so
Mm-hmm.
that there is no ambiguity about how these benefit plans benefit myself and our organization. And I can just throw out another one there
Yeah.
with regard to performance management. I
Mm-hmm.
did a presentation a few weeks ago with expert HR about a performance appraisal system and HR's role.
Yeah.
It's it's almost a train the trainer method because
Yes.
when you go into a performance appraisal, it's typically the manager and the employee,
Mm-hmm.
and not every manager understands how to give a great appraisal.
No.
So HR should be coaching so that they level up their skills. So
Yes.
there are countless applications for what a coaching culture should look like,
Uh-huh.
but ultimately, it's how do you move people from the starting point of where they are today
Yes.
to a better version of themselves in a time bound future.
Yes. I love that. So many nuggets there, especially in the different spaces and like making it very real. And I think that to your point about onboarding, it's something that a lot of HR professionals do struggle with. I think organizations in general struggle with onboarding. You hear so many onboarding nightmares, but we can make that process seamless and get people to feel like they belong from the beginning. And one of the ways that I saw not recently, but over the years that really works well is the process that Bamboo HR uses. So, like, as you recruit and the person signs the contract and you can introduce them to the team in Bamboo HR, they can get to learn. You can like have trivia questions, and each member of the team can say, like, hi, welcome to the team. I am Julie. This is what I do. And these are the things that I love. I love pizza. I love the color green type of thing. And it kind of helps the person to get that feeling of belonging from the jump. You agree?
I do, I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not as familiar with Bamboo's method, but it sounds like going on the offensive and making people feel welcome, letting them understand the personalities that they'll be working with,
Mm-hmm.
the insight about keys to success at the organization. So I'm a big fan of that. I
Yes.
think that people assume and managers assume that onboarding starts on day one when the person
Mm-hmm.
shows up, or if virtual, when they first log into their first
Yeah.
virtual meeting. But that's not the case. You
No.
waste a lot of opportunity if you don't treat onboarding as the first time that job description is posted, or
Mm-hmm.
your corporate website and what it says about your organization. From the
Mm-hmm.
time that someone begins their candidate journey up
Yes.
until becoming an employee,
Mm-hmm.
and even through, first 90 days, first year, first 2 years, even,
Yes.
that is the onboarding experience. And so
Absolutely.
something like what Bamboo is doing, that's pretty cool. That they do that, and I think more
Yeah.
teams should be more proactive about welcoming folks into the organization.
Definitely. I love that. So I'm always excited about it. And not just because I'm a partner with Bamboo HR, but that does help. But I am a user of the product and I really do love it. And it really does enhance the employee experience. And I think from also just to add one more thing to this before we move on, and we have a question in the chat as well.
Okay.
Um, but what I love is that we talk about pre-boarding, onboarding, offboarding, right? And the candidate experience is right at the beginning before pre-boarding. And I think a lot of times we miss that opportunity to really enhance the candidate experience. There are so many times I've spoken to recruiters about this, and we have this constant discussion about ghosting candidates. But if you're constantly recruiting, if you want candidates to come back, that experience matters as well.
Yep.
So all of that is about like how do we coach not just our leaders, but everyone who is involved in touching an employee's life in the process. And all of that contributes to creating a coaching organization. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
As much as HR leads the way in coaching, HR is not solely responsible for coaching. Um, I mean, the easy understanding of why HR isn't the only person, because HR in and of itself is a discipline, but
Yes.
so is marketing, so is
Mm-hmm.
IT, so is project management, so is finance, so is legal, so is all of the product management, product development.
Yes.
All of these things are disciplines that managers and team members are more knowledgeable in than your HR pros. And so, it's almost the yin to the yang.
Yes.
HR can teach you coaching principles, but you should be applying them and looking
Mm-hmm.
out for them beyond the skills that HR can teach you, and even
Exactly.
thinking about the ways that you can level up in your particular field of study and field of expertise.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to take us to the comments, Joey. So
All right.
Sarah says that we have to create security first.
I agree. I agree. That's part of what Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
security. Um, I would imagine physical, social, mental, and
Mm-hmm.
even spiritual to some degree, security at work. And you can't have security, and you can't even have coaching without trust. And so, trust is the glue, I think, that holds it all together. Because you know, uh, Julie could call me on a weekend and say, "Hey, Joey, I'm really struggling with this issue. Could you talk me through your perspective?" And I could tell her what to do. But if she doesn't feel comfortable with the relationship that we have as colleagues, then it may fall on deaf ears, or I may not even get the call in the first place. So you have to make sure that as you pursue security, you're pursuing the trust as well, because that's going to be the glue that bonds any piece of advice to the individual that is the hearer of it.
Yes, absolutely. And then I see Lynette is asking you a question. What do you think is the greatest barrier or reason for companies not to move in the direction of having a coaching culture? It's a good one. Thank you,
That
Lynette.
is great, Lynette. And I would say the number one is lack of margin for coaching and training. Uh, a lot of organizations pursue, just get it done, operating in the moment, not really
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, hey, what would it mean if our employees live the same year 5 years in a row, as opposed to what if we incrementally level up our team members so that they are growing and our organization is growing? So, not creating the intentional time and space to coach and train is probably the biggest barrier. And if you were to ask me the why behind that, I think organizations feel that they can successfully plug and play individuals,
Mm,
and that in and of itself will be the solution to growth. But you have to upgrade your team. I mean, every 2 years we upgrade our cell phones. Every week our cell phones are upgrading their software.
yes.
But
Hmm.
we don't upgrade our employees and expect them to compete at tomorrow's challenges. But they're
Hmm.
not going to be able to win and compete in tomorrow's challenges with today's firmware, so to speak. So
Yeah.
we have to be intentional about addressing the coaching that's needed for future business challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I hope I see Lynette giving a thumbs up, so she definitely appreciates your answer.
All right.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, like I think also being in a space of having a growth mindset and having that growth mindset as an organization or as a profession for us as HR means that we have to be in a space that we have to be willing to unlearn so that we can relearn. We have to be in a space where we're willing to recognize that we need to upskill and reskill. And so this coaching culture is not, we know it's not the norm. Like I said, it's not the majority, but it is what we're moving towards. It's what the future of work looks like. So it definitely means that if we're seeing organizations that have implemented coaching cultures are thriving, then we need to look at that and
Hmm.
say like, hey, so like what are they doing differently, and then how can we implement that? What do we have to unlearn as the culture that we have right now that will help us to make space to relearn
Yeah.
this and create this kind of culture, right? I
I'll,
saw the
I'll
chat go wild.
I'll give a shameless plug for something that I'm doing tomorrow. It's called the After Party. There's a series called Forward with Adam Grant, and those
Hmm.
of you who know Adam Grant is a
Yes.
phenomenal workplace strategist, professor at Wharton, and
Hmm.
he has partnered, or SAP has partnered with him to create these modules, this episodic series about various factors of winning cultures. And tomorrow, I'll actually be talking about the uh, the training that Scotiabank does, and how their chief of HR instilled this training culture. It is very weird that these topics are aligned so closely together. I didn't plan that. I promise, Julie.
That's
Coaching is just
okay.
just passionate.
That makes perfect sense. Like it's a perfect blend, right? And segue into whatever's
Yeah.
happening next.
Yeah. So Scotiabank is big on training. If you look at a key to identify organizations that have really great training is organizations that have really clear and consistent culture. And for those of us who maybe were in the graduate school days of the mid 2000s and beyond, we studied groups like Southwest Airlines, and I'm a big fan of their culture because having had the opportunity to work with them, their culture is consistent from the CEO to the flight attendant, from the pilot to the gate agent. And
Hmm.
so you wonder how that happens. It's through intentionally training people on, hey, here's who we are, here's what we do, and here's how your role plays in making that a reality. And
Hmm.
so that's the big key. If you want to know if a brand trains well, it's very likely it's the brands that have very clear and definitive training and very clear and definitive culture.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I actually have learned not to take for granted that a company really is creating a training culture or a learning culture or a coaching culture because of recent, a couple companies that I've been working with on performance management and helping them to integrate new performance management programs. When I ask their team members the question like, "Are you a part of the performance management process?" and that's from the janitor to the CEO. So many people in there go, no, never been evaluated before. My performance has, I've never had a performance discussion before. I've never had a balanced scorecard. I've never, I don't even know what a performance review looks like. I've never got a bonus. I've never received a reward because what are you going to benchmark it on? Like on a gut feeling, and so many people that are not a part of that process then leads to that thing that we said before. They don't feel like they belong. And if they can do better, they'll move on to an organization that will give them that.
Yeah.
And so being able to connect those dots really is important. But I don't take for granted that every organization knows it and does it, because they don't. So I'm seeing the conversations. The conversation is flying. This
It's
is where this
jumping.
is where this is where my people take over. This is where they take over. This is our show. So
Yes.
Donna says, I think that HR plays an integral role in influencing the organization in adapting a coaching culture. As leaders and as HR professionals, one of our goals should be to shape each and every colleague to be the best that they can be. So we have to empower everyone to be skilled and open to giving and receiving feedback. Yes, Donna. Yes, Donna. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, Dana. So Dana's on my team.
Ah,
So she knows she knows we live this.
uh-huh.
And one thing I will share about what she mentioned is the idea of giving and receiving feedback, and
Mm-hmm.
how that is so critical.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
we run an agile shop, so
Nice.
our approach to HR, our approach to project management is agile.
Mm-hmm.
And part of agile, more specifically, not to get too in the weeds, but Scrum,
Yes.
is we're constantly asking, hey, are we building what we set out to build? Does it look the way that it's supposed to? Is
Yeah.
the customer happy? Will this piece of it stand alone? And is this ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, we talked about trust earlier. You have to trust that the teammates are giving feedback in support of making you a success and the project a success. So I couldn't be more proud of Dana and the work she does to help our mission. Um, but yeah, that feedback piece is critically important.
Yes, definitely. Continuous feedback is key. I'm all for the agile mindset and agile ways of working. I use Kanban myself and with my team, and that works perfect for us. But to your point, yeah, constantly asking those questions, like even to the point of, are the processes that are currently in place, are they over engineered? How are people feeling about them? Like if we're not constantly doing that litmus test of, how do people feel about what we have here and how it works? Does it cause people pain? Does it make people irritable? How can we smoothen that out? And to your point about the phone, right? Like we're always constantly updating, getting updates for our phone, and we should be looking at HR processes in a similar way, and as well as upskilling our leaders and our managers and creating that coaching culture right the way through. But does that apply to just like leadership? Should everybody be in a space where they feel like they can recognize a teachable moment and coach?
I do think that everyone plays a role, and this is where I'll share one of our internal values, uh, and I think it applies to many other organizations, but we're intentional here. Is one of our internal values is own your expertise. And part of owning your expertise is being confident that you are a part of a team to tackle a specific problem, a specific challenge, and be a specific light in specific darkness. So, knowing that you should always be looking for bringing your confidence and expertise to the table, but also being humble enough to know that as you become seen as this leader in your space, you should also be looking to continually learn, grow, and develop. And so it's absolutely critical for every member of a team to own their expertise, so to speak. You don't have to be the manager to be an expert at what you do. You don't have to be the CEO to be an expert at what you do. but you need to have a set of confidence that says, hey, I know what good looks like and I know what bad looks like. And I will
Yes.
always be leaning into being better at the good and doing less of the bad.
Yes, definitely. I see Shauna K agrees with you because she says intentionality is important. Great way
100%.
to great way to sum that up.
100%.
I see Jennifer says, I love organizations with training cultures. Definitely something I ask during interviews. Will there be training opportunities?
Yeah, that's one of those telltale signs of great places to work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I talked about this before about how not here, but before it's like if you want to see if an organization cares about their team, just go to the bathroom and see what it looks like. But also, is there opportunities for training, growth, and development? That is a telltale sign of somewhere that you want to be, and that's
Yes.
someplace you can stay for a while.
Definitely. And to your point about owning your expertise, I see, yes, Lynette is in agreement with that as well. And I'm sure everyone is, the importance of building competency frameworks that move you from being aware about something to being a subject matter expert, being knowledgeable. And that's how if you have that coaching culture and the coaching mindset, you can move people through those competencies. So even if you don't have room for upward mobility, but you're helping people to develop those competencies. Back to what you said about let's help people to leave here better than they came. And so when we develop that, it really does help with creating that coaching culture, right?
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And even if you don't have the level of structure in your organization to move people through certain modules,
Mm-hmm.
part of that trust building is talking to an employee to say, "Hey, what are you good at today and what do you want to be good at tomorrow?" And finding the intersection between where that employee wants to grow and how they can help move the organization forward, and
Mm-hmm.
then just mentoring them and walking them through that process. I'll give you an example that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with work, but everything
Okay.
to do with the fact that currently I'm not as great in golf as I want to be. So
Okay.
yesterday I went to a club fitting because I thought, maybe I needed to buy new clubs. I've had these clubs for a while. They're at least 10 years old. They're not serving their purpose anymore.
Mm-hmm.
New clubs are the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But my fitter he was a very nice gentleman. He said, uh, I don't think the clubs are the answer. I think we need to work on your swing mechanics first,
Mm-hmm.
because he was having me go through drills, and it was highlighting the fact that it wasn't the club that was getting in the way, it was the way that I was approaching my swing.
Swing.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to, as a coach in our organization, identify like what is it about a person, an employee's approach to their job that stands in the way of their professional success,
Yes.
and give reps and feedback and opportunity in those specific ways to sharpen them in those areas,
Yes.
because great employees are probably stellar in 80% of things and terrible in 20% of things. And
Yes.
so you have to manage that 20% and steward that 80%.
Mm-hmm.
So uh listen, my first lesson is on Monday, so I'm excited. But
Nice.
that's the kind of excitement that you want in your organizations too. Is like, hey, my
Absolutely.
boss cares enough to sharpen this area where I'm weak, and they don't hold it against me. They don't tell me I'm a terrible employee, but it's
Uh-huh.
actually an opportunity for me to get better so that I can level up in my career and the organization can move forward. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go. It's
Yep.
not always the tool. Sometimes it's just,
Gotta
switching the
sharpen the
swing.
skill. Yep.
Yeah.
Sharpen the skill. I agree with that. Can you believe that we're 34 minutes in? I've only asked you the first question in our outline for today, but this is great because it shows that it's a much needed conversation,
Hmm.
and our audience is really chiming in and sharing their thoughts. Sarah Phelps says she has a new add to her HR team. How does she subtly encourage the team to move towards a coaching culture? Nudging. Ooh.
Great, great question. And I love the word subtly encourage. We have a word in our vision statement that says instill. Oh well, she's not so subtly. All right, well, I'm still gonna say what I was gonna say. So when you instill something, so you want to instill a culture of coaching, you are intentionally changing mindset. And so the way that you want to intentionally change mindset around this is to present the coaching culture as an opportunity for the team to get better, and you have to paint the reality of why your team can no longer exist and not be a coaching culture. So,
Mm-hmm.
so what is it that you're missing out on? Is the team missing out on raises? Is the team missing out on leveling up in their career? Is the team missing out on, quite frankly, being a highly distinguished function of the organization? Um, Paint the picture of what you can accomplish by achieving this goal, and then lay out steps to achieve it, and then measure your progress along the way. So you have to there's a book called Managing Change by John
Mm-hmm.
Cotter. John Cotter is like a excellent organizational change and development professional. I think his book was published by Harvard Business Review or Harvard Business Press. Um, but there's a framework for how to manage and lead change in an organization. So it's actually Leading Change is the name of the book.
Okay.
Go through that framework, and I guarantee you will gradually make those necessary improvements. But you have to present the reward, and you have to present the opportunity before you can just say, "Hey, we need to do this," because you're gonna hear, "Well, why? I'm comfortable here. Why do I have to go into this mindset?"
Yes, definitely. I hope that helps answer your question, Sarah. But a great layout, and I'll put the link to that book in the comments after our live today. Lynette has a question for you again. If you are an HR professional in an organization that is not interested or invested in coaching, developing individuals, how may you still be effective in your interaction with colleagues and in your daily tasks? Good question.
Great question. If we can leave that up on the screen as
Yes.
I address it, just because I don't want to miss the train of thought with it.
Uh-huh.
Um, my distinction would be if you are a manager or if you are a team member without managerial duties. And I'll speak to both because I'm not sure Lynette's specific reality, but individuals with those two realities may be watching this today or on rebroadcast. So
Yes.
if you are a manager, I would say buck the trend and coach your team. Coach your team because what may happen is people are going to ask you why is your team so successful, and you'll be able to say the secret sauce is that I coach them up. Now, if you are an individual, independent contributor, or you look up to a manager, uh, I would say be coachable yourself. Uh, Always seek opportunities to learn and grow from your supervisor. Build a team or at least one mentor outside of your organization that can
Mm-hmm.
help you grow, and let your work speak for itself. And when people ask you, "Hey, what separates you from your other colleagues?" You can say it's my coaching and coachable mindset. I'm willing to learn new skills and be introduced to new challenges, and I find ways to extend myself and be a value add to the team.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let a no stop you from finding ways to incorporate coaching into your professional diet, for lack of a better phrasing.
Yes. And nothing beats hiring your own coach. Hint, hint.
Yep, I would agree. Yeah, listen,
It's what I do.
it's you need to get on there with yes, do it.
Absolutely. So I'm looking through the comments one more time before we move into our next question, but I'm going to
Okay.
move into our next, I'm going to boldly move into our next question and help, hopefully, and I think we kind of have answered this one a little bit already. So, from your perspective, what would you say HR has been doing to create a coaching culture? Like, what are we doing better that we weren't doing before?
Mm.
What does that scope look like for the HR profession from your mindset?
I think that HR still has a ways to go because organizations have a ways to go. And in many ways, HR's ability to instill a coaching culture depends on the organization's willingness to adopt a coaching culture. Now, many organizations have a learning culture where we throw info at people and hope it sticks, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't have the coaching culture where essentially you are instilling a guide or a person to walk people along the journey of getting better. So I think that organizations that have formal mentorship, organizations that have really solid performance appraisal systems and processes, not just the annual process, but throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the things that HR is doing to create a coaching culture, and I think that just this new wave of radical candor. There's a author
Kim Scott.
Kim Scott. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I
I
love
love that book.
radical candor,
Yeah.
and even predating that was Ben Horowitz. The hard thing about the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Both books that helped HR pros and people leaders in general deliver honest conversation about what's working and what's not working. So I
Yeah.
think that as we pursue vulnerability at work and transparency at work,
Mm-hmm.
that is helping to create a coaching culture. But taking it that next step and partnering with people throughout their journey
Mm-hmm.
is the next phase in developing that coaching culture.
Yeah. Funny enough that you started to talk about radical candor. Actually, I read this book every year.
Uh huh.
Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott.
Nice.
Because I think that this is so important. And as I support HR professionals in being able to have those courageous conversations like this book, and I also have Radical Candor.
Hmm.
Um, and both of those books really help me as I try to support HR professionals in having those difficult conversations with their leaders. But I think to the most important thing, because we know that as organizations look for a reason to do something, they want to know what the ROI is. So, what is
Hmm.
the ROI on creating a coaching culture?
I do hate having to answer that
I
question,
I know,
um,
but
only because it's one. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was
no,
cutting
I
you off.
was
Go ahead.
gonna say like it's, but we have to, because at the end of the day, there are still organizations that are stuck in that mindset that they want to know, like, show me the money.
Yeah.
We hate that, but it is what it is. So, like, talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So there are countless case studies upon case studies about how the best learning organizations are the most effective organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we could go down that path, right? Where if you invest in your team and teach them to grow, they perform better.
Right.
um, there's also the reality, like we started this out by saying people don't leave jobs, they leave managers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're leaving because they don't get the opportunity for growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the cost to replace a person and to train them and to get
Yep.
them acclimated to your culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's expensive,
It
and
is.
it's stressful,
Mm-hmm.
especially now where everyone needs great recruiting because there's so much job switching right now with
Yeah.
what's going on. So there's that aspect, and then I mean the ethical idea of not letting people grow stale and stagnant and
Yes.
introducing new challenges, uh, that helps build morale. And people
Mm-hmm.
who have higher morale produce better
Better.
output.
Yep.
So there are many different avenues and angles that you could present the case for it. I think where executives may be gun shy or not willing to buy into it is that training pursuits haven't worked in the past because it's been a half commitment. right? It's been,
Mm-hmm.
hey, sure, we'll send you to that convention, but what I see is we're missing 3 days of productivity, and we're never going to implement those things you learned because we're too afraid to. So all
Yeah.
we did was just give you 3 days to go to Chicago or Denver and hang
Or
out with
Vegas. Mm-hmm.
or Vegas, right?
Everybody wants to go to Vegas.
Everybody wants to go to Vegas.
Uh-huh.
So that's one of the reasons why leaders are gun shy, but it's because they aren't even committed to embracing the change and growth that may happen.
Yeah.
So it just makes people frustrated to go to these trainings, learn and be inspired, and then come back to business as usual, knowing that they
You
won't be able to
can't
make the change.
implement it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That is a big frustration. So how do we move this dialogue forward? Lynette says free trip, road trip.
Yep.
Yeah. How do we
Free
move this,
trip.
yeah, dialogue forward? I see Brianna. Brianna is saying that the coaching culture is important in today's organizations, that we want to be high performing orgs because often we don't improve because they aren't doing the coaching. Therefore, how can they improve on their skills? How can they grow?
Right. I would agree, and I have a story. So even this morning, I was talking with one of our consultants, and it was just an off. We were just catching up about something. We have
Uh-huh.
a webinar that we're doing, and so we were prepping for that. And she had mentioned, she said, "Hey, this customer wants me to do like office hours every week, but I was gonna tell them that they don't need it." And I was like, no, I mean, you want to make yourself available to the customer, and open office hours are meant to be drop-ins.
Mm-hmm.
So, what she said was, in making the adjustment from being an employee to a consultant,
Yeah.
or better said, being internal versus external,
Yes.
because she's an employee of the team. But from moving internal to external, she has to reframe the way that she relates to an organization.
Yeah.
And part of that was, hey, internally, I wouldn't advocate for office hours because I try to make myself available
Mm-hmm.
throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
But externally, knowing that our customers have a finite amount of time to engage with us, we have to create those open moments where we create margin.
Yeah.
And so it was a instant light bulb click for her, but that was a coaching. So we address it for this customer, but maybe she'll go on and tell 5 other customers that they need office hours too, and
Uh-huh.
the why behind it. So coaching allows you to prevent issues from bubbling up again,
Mm-hmm.
and it compounds your ROI because we address it there, and then other customers get to benefit from that coaching.
Yes.
So that's just one example, but there are several along the way. But high performance comes from not just correcting bad behavior, but accelerating great behavior too.
Yes.
We think about, the best high performing athletes have the coaches that they have on their team, but then they have their own individual like strength and conditioning coaches. So it's not just about fixing bad behavior, but it's about how do you accelerate and maximize great behavior too.
Great behavior. Yes. Yes. Oh, so powerful. Joey, we could talk all day long about this particular topic and then some. Like, this has been such a great conversation. But we are out of time. Like,
No way. Where'd the time go?
I don't know where the time went, but the time has gone. But tell us, like, Joey, like, um, if people want to, get to know you better, want to learn more about how they can create great coaching cultures through you, how can people find you and reach out to you? I know LinkedIn, I know Instagram.
Mhm.
Tell me what else.
All right. So our website is jumpstart-hr.com. That's the best way to learn about who we are, what we're doing, and how you can join us, whether you are a HR pro or if your organization needs uh, coaching, consulting, and outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely follow me. Disclaimer: my Instagram is nowadays it's like mostly my kids, but I do share some announcements and kind of ways to interact with me there.
Yes.
And Twitter is a great place for us to have kind of those
Yes.
HR conversations. But I wouldn't want to sell you that, it's just working with me. There's an incredible team behind Jumpstart that if you partner with us, you'll get to know.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to serving anyone who's looking to grow their coaching culture.
Awesome. So, Joey, we just had an amazing conversation about how to create coaching cultures in your organization. Any final comments, recommendations that you want to make to our audience today who absolutely love this conversation? What do you want to give them? Any final nuggets you want to share?
Sure. So I would recommend don't let this conversation end here. If you have thoughts and takeaways, feel free to tag me. I'm happy to jump in and chime into conversations happening. But also know that you can be coach. You can you can't coach your way to the top. You need coaches along the way who will guide you to whatever goal you're looking to accomplish.
Yep.
So that's internally through your career. That's for your organization wide goals. So always look for ways to learn, grow, and be challenged so that you can rise to the occasion and your work will speak for itself. So it's been fun chatting with you, and thanks for such a really great convo today.
Oh, my pleasure. And I know that the audience loved this. Sarah said this should be a regular conversation. It was so excellent.
Oh, my pleasure. That's awesome.
Really great conversation indeed. So, guys, we have reached the end of today's show. Coming up next week is kind of like a really great segue into what Joey just said about, building your abilities and your capabilities as HR professionals. And to have this conversation with me next week, an interesting topic. Here it is. You can't climb the HR career ladder without a plan. And next week, I'm going to have Tandy Hoffman, and we're going to have this conversation next week. So look out for that. And with that said, thank you for sharing your time with us today. I know you could have been doing anything else. And Joey and I both appreciate you being here today. But this has been HR Voice, Magnifying HR Voices. And I will see you next week. And we'll see if we could get Joey on another time for us to continue this conversation.
You got it.